Hello guys, welcome back to our channel BioLab, and this is VAMSI here at BioLab, and I am back with another new video. And in today's video we will be discussing about generation of nerve impulse. Before going into the video, let me give you some introductory definitions that I usually do. And today we will be discussing about generation of impulses. So let us see what are these nerve impulses. Nerve impulses. What are these nerve impulses? See, these nerve impulses you can understand very simply. In our regular system, let's do some physics now. Let's talk about some physics. See, here in our regular house, there is a main board. So I have already told you this one. I'm just making it clear to you. This is our main the main power supply line. It is a main supply. That is the main supply. And in our house system only, it is not our where the electricity is produced. So it is in our house, the main power supply. We have some MCBs here. Something, assume them. Okay. Now after this, here is your tube light or fan. This is your bulb. This is your switch. Light. Switch, light and supply. The main thing here is why we are discussing this is understanding nerve impulses, and our system, our neural system is very easily done using this one. See, our supply is generally considered, let us consider it as brain. Supply is our brain. Okay, if you are not the handwriting, if you are not satisfied with the handwriting, brain. Okay, from supply we know that these electrical wires go to the switch. This is your wire, and these are termed as nerves. These are basically understood as nerves. Okay, I am telling you this so in order to you would remember it very carefully, and you would remember it. It would persist in your brain for many days. So that is why this is a supply considered as brain. This is the wire considered as nerve, or you can also take the main wire. Okay, main wire. Then if you take it as main wire, let us consider this as spinal cord. Main wire, spinal cord. Okay. Now from this switch, our lights, fans, everything. Now from this switch, these are your wires, and these are termed as nerves. Switch you can be assuming it as muscle, and light is your body part. Say some hand. So this is the simple setup in order to understand our neural system that I have prepared for you. Now, if you turn on this main switch, in order you have to make the bulb glow or light glow, you need it to read. Okay, you need it to state. So what we have done is we have turned on the main switch. Then the current flows from this main switch through the main wire to this switch. Our light switch. And if you turn on this switch, then the current flows from switch to light. Okay, from switch to light. Now this current is it is nothing but electrons. Current is nothing but it is a movement of electrons. It is a flow of electrons, electricity, electrical current. Electrons are flowing in this direction. Yeah, electrons are moving in this direction. So these electrons are nerve impulses. These electrons itself, they are nerve impulses. Electrons itself are nerve impulses. Understand it very carefully. Understand it. If you understand this, you can think about our nervous system, what is actually happening. Here the thing is, you wanted to make the bulb glow in order to study. For studying you require light, so you want to make the bulb glow. So what you did is, then only you went somewhere, some tour, and came to the house. Think like this then. Now if you come to the house, in order to see something, you have turned off the main switch or main supply, or the main MCB is turned off before leaving from your house. But after coming back, you require something. You require light, fan, everything. So you switch on the main supply. What was your reason in order to switching on the main supply? The light. Ultimately, we have to make the light glow. So that is why you have to switch on the main supply. Now, main supply is our brain. Main supply is our brain, and we consider light as hand. It is a voluntary organ. You require something to lift your hand. You think of it in your brain. So you switch on your brain in order to lift your hand. You switch on your brain, or you command your brain in order to lift my left hand. Then the brain passes these nerve impulses, so called in our electrical circuit, electrons, and these nerve impulses are conducting through the main wire or spinal cord. This is your PNS system. This wire is your PNS system. Now, okay. Then, if we consider these wires as PNS system, then let us not consider this as spinal cord. Main wire something. This is a main nerve. Now, from this, it moves like this. These electrons flow is your nerve impulses. Nerve impulse is nothing but it is electricity for our brain. We'll be understanding how this nerve impulse is generated. Action potential we call it as. Now this switch, these electrons reach your switch or muscle. Now what muscle does? It contracts. The sarcomere contraction we have seen. Acetylcholine reaching the neuromotor junction. Then the neuromotor junction contracting the sarcomere contractile unit we have seen in locomotion chapter, and then this muscle contracts. As a result, what happens is your hand rises or your light glows. So this is how basically these nerve impulses are generated, or it is the general expression. But while coming into scientific view, what we tell is these nerve impulses are generated by two potentials. One, the resting potential, two, the action potential. They are generated because of these we talk. So resting potential means nerve is under rest. You are in a resting position. You slept at night. So no organ is, no voluntary organ is required for sleeping. You just go and relax, sleep. So yeah, that is what I'm very fond of sleep. Yes, yeah, keep that aside. You sleep, no voluntary organ is required for sleeping. All voluntary organs are at rest. Then who will be going to maintain the potential gradient? Yes, actually what happens is there is a gradient or potential gradient that is to be maintained in our neural system. If that is not maintained, then we call it as action potential. If that potential gradient is disturbed and the electrons or ions flow, then we call it as action potential. That is the generation. We will be seeing it now how this resting potential is maintained. When we are resting, no nerve impulse is generated. How is this possible without generating any nerve impulse? It is done by two ions respectively called as sodium and potassium ions. Sodium and potassium ions are responsible for the resting phase or resting potential of our neural system or neurons. Now I am considering here an axonal membrane. It is an axonal membrane. Axonal membrane. So hope you are understanding every point. If you do, please make please make your notes. That's very important. You can write it now when I am teaching, or you can also even go to your after completion of this lecture video. You can open your NCERT, then write your own notes. So that is how I make my notes. If you want, you can also do, or you can write what I am saying, because every point is under NCERT guidelines, or under our Bhagavad Gita, or under our Bible, or under Quran. So that is axonal memory. And even let me tell you that most of the questions in NEET 2022 that was held on 17th July were, and they are from your NCERT. They are from our NCERT, but the questions were lengthy. So that is why it takes more time in order to read those 6 statements which I have given. Assertion, reason, questions. Those statements, even the correct statements and incorrect statements, are even present in our NCERT. So that is what the specialty is. So that is why we have to increase our pace or speed of reading. So that helps. We will be doing as this NEET has got many such questions, I will be trying to do those also. So if I am free, okay. And the videos are also not going to come regularly, only on Wednesday and Saturday you will be getting a video, and today and tomorrow regularly you will get a video, but from next time only on Wednesday and Saturday you will be getting a videos. So please accept me for that one. Yeah, this is your axonal membrane, and generally these neurons are excitable. Means electrons are excitable. Electrons are excitable, means they can move from lower energy shell to higher energy shell. So like that only our neurons can also move from they cannot move, but how to tell this excitable, they can absorb energy, like that you take it. If they can absorb energy, they can increase their energy, they are easily excitable. So let me tell you this example. Students are easily excitable for food. Yes, if we see food, we cannot tolerate our tongue. Our mouth starts watering. If we see our, the thing which is very fond of for us. Okay, so like that, we are very excitable to food. So neurons are also even very excitable to electrical potentials that are generated in, these neurons. Why is it happening like this? This is because they are under polarized state. Now what is the meaning of polarization or polarized state? This is the axonal membrane, positive charges on top, negative charges on the bottom. This is your polarized state of an axonal membrane. Means both the charges are being balanced outside and inside the axonal membrane. This is being done even we are at rest because of only the sodium and potassium pumps. Remember this, sodium and potassium pumps. The active transport is being happened due to sodium and potassium pumps. Okay, they actively transport the ions up and down. Now what is the sodium and potassium pump doing here in our nerves? Yes, our nerves or axonal membrane inside, this is inside where the negative charge is first. So write it inside, this is outside the axonal membrane. Now these are sodium potassium pumps. Let me erase that. Now this is the inside of axonal membrane, that is the outside of axonal membrane. Outside we are having positive charge. This is because inside we are having negative charge. let me make you understand. This axonal membrane is having some ion channels. We have seen in our active transport chapter, transportation plants, that this axon the plants are having ion channels. They are permeable for only some substances, only for some ions. Like that only, this axonal membrane is only freely permeable to potassium ions, but not sodium ions. It is nearly impermeable to sodium ions. Consider this axonal membrane is nearly impermeable to Na plus ions, sodium ions. And for what ions it is permeable? We have seen sodium, potassium, so now sodium it is impermeable, then for potassium it is permeable. If it is permeable for potassium, then for negative charge, okay sir, okay brother, you are telling that K plus and Na plus both are cations. Am I wrong? Both are cations. Then what about anions? And then what about negative charge? You are only talking about this positive charge. What about what is happening to negative charge? And this axonal membrane is also impermeable to negative charge or negative ions. So then what happens? All the potassium ions remain inside, including the negative charge. Since these potassium ions are inside and outside, there is sodium ions. Inside there can be some sodium ions. There can be some sodium ions also. But outside there is more concentration of sodium ions, and there is no concentration. There is very less concentration of negative charge. And since this is happening, this is polarized. This is polarized. This is polarized state. So let me just hold this thing, then you will understand. As I said, the axonal membrane is impermeable to sodium ions. Sodium ions, they remain in the outside condition. They remain outside only. Here there are ion channels. These are some ion channels. So outside there are sodium ions. They are impermeable to sodium ions. So these remain outside. But so sometimes what happens is when the stimulus is generated, then these sodium ions move down. I'll be talking about it just later. So these are the sodium ions, and since there are many sodium ions, many positive ions, there is more positive charge and less negative charge on the outside of the membrane. Now since there are less number of sodium ions, more number of negative charge and more number of potassium ions, the inner membrane is negatively charged. Inside of the axonal membrane is negatively charged. Now what happens there? Now what happens is, if a stimulus is applied, this is a resting condition. So this is a resting condition. Generally our axonal membrane or neuron is like this, under resting condition. Our neuron or axonal membrane is under resting condition like this. Got it? Under resting condition like this. Why I am not giving you time to write? Today it is not for much writing, only listening. Please listen to the class, then go home, or when you are free, make your notes using NCERT. So that is why. Okay, now let's continue. Let's not break the flow. These are your ion channels. They are impermeable to sodium ions. So when they are impermeable to sodium ions remain outside the membrane. Since no one is allowing them in the. Since they are impermeable, they are outside the membrane. If there are more concentration is outside the membrane. So if they are outside, what is inside? Potassium, and negative charge is on the inside of the axonal membrane. Since these are even not permeable to negative charge, this negative charge is not sent out. So this is how resting condition is in general. But if the stimulus is applied, see, these and on the skin surface I have my receptors, I have my sensory neurons here. Now think this is some needle. I poke my skin. I poke my skin. If I poke my hand, I generally remove it. I generally remove it. Why? Because of this. Because of this, when a stimulus is applied, then the membrane becomes more permeable to sodium ions. Then the membrane becomes more permeable to sodium ions. See what is happening. Now resting condition is disturbed since I have applied some stimulus. I have applied some stimulus from this side, this side. So this is stimulus. What's happening now? This sodium ions, this membrane becomes suddenly permeable to sodium ions. Sodium ions will be coming in. Sodium ions will be coming in through the sodium potassium pumps or through the ion channels. Okay, now what happens? Sorry. Yeah. Now what happens? Yeah, 1 minute, guys. Yeah. Now there is some disturbance there. 1 minute. Let me tell you. Okay. Now, what happens is this membrane becomes permeable to sodium ions, and all sodium ions move inward, and all positive charge moves inward. Now, all positive charge is moving inward. Here, this membrane is positive, and in order to maintain again resting condition, the sodium potassium active pump, sorry, not sodium potassium, not to maintain resting potential. This potassiums move through ion channels outside. These potassiums through ion channels move outside, even the negative charge. Even the negative charge. Now what is happening? Something is happening. The resting potential is disturbed. The resting potential is disturbed. The resting potential is disturbed means outside negative charge is accumulating, inside positive charge is accumulating. Now polarization state is reversed. So this is called as depolarized state or depolarized membrane. The polarized state is being reversed when the stimulus is applied. When a stimulus is applied, the polarized state is being reversed. And if this polarized state is being reversed, there is a generation of impulse. There is a generation of nerve impulse. And how is this happening? There is a potential difference. There is a potential gradient. Through this potential gradient, there is a generation of nerve impulse. And in order to maintain again the resting state, this potassium and sodium potassium active pumps, these are sodium potassium active pumps. These sodium potassium active pumps, what they do is actively transport. They use ATP. They hydrolyze ATP. They use ATP and send 3 Na plus. Now Na plus is outside. Sorry, inside. 3 Na plus is the Na plus is inside and potassium is outside. In order to again repolarize the membrane, depolarize, polarize, repolarize. Now 3 words you have to learn. Polarized state means, polarized state means positive charge outside, negative charge being inside the axonal membrane. Depolarized state means negative charge being outside and positive charge being inside. The charge is being reversed. Charges are being reversed. And that is why there will be a potential difference. If there is a potential difference, we will be having some impulse, and that impulse is termed as action potential. I will be telling you. And the last word is repolarization. In order to again polarize the membrane, what the sodium potassium pumps do is they actively transport 3 sodium ions. This is very important. Outwards for every 2 potassium ions inward. Now potassium should come in, negative charge should come in. So that is why what these potassium pumps and sodium pumps do is they actually transport 3 sodium outside and for every 2 potassium to come inside. So again resting potential is maintained here. Now there is a difference. Now there is a potential difference. Now this potential difference leads to generation of nerve impulse, and this nerve impulse moves through the axon. Throughout the axonal membrane, the same thing happens, and the impulse from this end moves to this end. Now at this end, there can be a motor neuron, the a muscle or affective tissue. There can be a dendrite. There can be another axon of other neuron, and at this end, if there is a synapse, if it is a chemical synapse, we have seen that electrical synapses are rare in our system and they are present only in brain. That is why we will be talking more about chemical synapse. Now there can be a chemical synapse here. Yeah, chemical synapse. If chemical synapse is there, what happens? How these generated electrical impulses pass from one neuron to other? What is happening here is, let us see this. So that is why I have told you the basic terms in the previous video itself, so that it will be more interesting and more understandable to you. Now generation is completed. We are talking about transmission. Now generation impulse is completed. There was a potential difference, so that is why nerve impulses are generated. And after this generation, this is also called as action potential. This potential difference is also termed as action potential. And you can also say that during this action potential generation, when these stimulus is applied, you can also say that when stimulus is applied, there is a rapid influx of sodium ions. Sodium ions are being absorbed or moving inward. So that is called as rapid influx of sodium ions. And after this sodium ions are coming in, there is charge reversal. The outside becomes negative, inside becomes positive. Now we call it as depolarized membrane. And in order to again repolarize it, the sodium potassium action pumps, or they actively transport 3 sodium out for every 2 potassium in. After this, the potential difference or action potential is generated, and it has to be moved from one neuron to other neuron. So in order to move it from one neuron to other neuron, what happens is, or you can also tell simply that before going into chemical synapse, let's see how this electrical impulse is passing through the whole axonal membrane. If this is the axonal membrane, at this site stimulus is applied. Here the membrane is depolarized, and this if it is depolarized here, this is site B. If it is depolarized at site A, the current flows from A to B inside the membrane. Inside, we have studied in the electrical current chapter, we have seen in the current electricity chapter that electrons move from one place to other place in order to transport electricity. So like that only nerve impulses, electrical current is generated inside here from A to B. Now in order to complete the circuit, the current is also flown from B to A outside. So now from here the nerve impulse reached here. From here it is reaching here. So like that it continues throughout the axonal membrane. After that, after coming throughout the axonal membrane, here we have the axon terminals which terminate as bob-like structures. Now what I am doing is, I am making one axon terminal big. This is your presynaptic membrane. Presynaptic. I am showing you the synapse now. Here is your postsynaptic membrane. It can be a neuron, dendrite, anything. This is your postsynaptic membrane. Now as this is a chemical synapse which you are talking, we have a synaptic cleft here. We have seen in the previous video. This is your synaptic cleft, and these three are composed of synaptic membrane or synapse. Now what are these bob-like structures? They are called as synaptic vesicles. Synaptic vesicles, and these contain the neurotransmitters. When this stimulus is reached to the here, now here is this stimulus or nerve impulse or action potential 2. Now when it is reached to the axon terminal, what happens is these synaptic vesicles move towards the presynaptic membrane, and they release these chemical substances called as neurotransmitters. And on the postsynaptic membrane, in order to receive this impulse, we have the presence of some receptors. And these receptors recognize that these are the neurotransmitters, the chemical substances, neurotransmitters, and they attract, or these neurotransmitters come and sit on this, they recept on this, and from here, from these neurotransmitters, this chemical neurotransmitter is converted into again a neural synapse, and then it is again transported throughout the axonal membrane like this, current flow, and from again there, again synapse. So the same story is repeated throughout the membrane in order to respond to a stimulus which is applied. So that is it for this video. Before going, let me again repeat you the three words which we have seen. Now we have completed generation as well as transmission of nerve impulses. Generation and transmission of nerve impulses is completed. Now after that we have some interesting portion to be completed. Let me check and tell you. That is your central nervous system. Okay, before going, let me repeat those three words which we have discussed today. First of all, polarization. Polarized. I am just showing you using diagrams. This is the polarized condition outside the membrane, positive charge inside the membrane, negative charge. Depolarized, this is due to the stimulus application. Negative charge outside, positive charge inside. Stimulus application. Repolarization, this is due to the sodium potassium pumps. You have to learn these three. Words. It is very important. Please remember it. And this is it for this video. In the next video, we will be discussing about central nervous system and our brain. We will be discussing about our brain. And that is it. If you like the video, please hit that like button and also subscribe to our channel BioLab. And this is VAMSI signing off. Have a great day further. And if you have any single doubt in this topic, it might be confusing. Yes, if you have any single doubt, please comment down in the comment section below, and I'll be trying to respond as soon as. And thank you. Have a great day further. This is VAMSI signing off from BioLab.